Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am still trying to figure out the color cup. I know a lot of people have reached legend in it, but for me, I just feel like it's super RPS and very alignment dependent, and I am struggling in color cup, to be honest. So I went to Twitter a little bit to get some inspiration from other people who have reached legend in the color cup, and I found that a lot of them had one Pokemon in common, and that Pokemon was Morpeko, which makes a lot of sense because Morpeko is, first of all, super versatile, and second, it is very spammy and its moves are going to hit hard. So it made sense why a lot of people who were reaching legend were using Morpeko, and also keep in mind it has access to that seed bomb, which is going to take care of its greatest weaknesses, which are going to be the mud boys, if your opponent doesn't see it coming. But you see, a lot of people aren't falling for that anymore, so they're shielding, which is why I decided to run mine with Psychic Fangs. I will build up to the seed bomb, which is going to be 5 Thunder Shocks, and then I'll throw a Psychic Fangs and I will get a shield from my opponents. But for the most part, as long as your Morpeko is not aligned to a water and ground type, then in a lot of cases, it can do a lot of damage to any of the Pokemon that it is aligned to. You can double shield it against a grass type and it will be able to handle that grass type because it is going to outpace most of the Pokemon that are in the meta. So I ended up running Morpeko with the team that you guys are seeing on the screen right now. It is going to be Shadow Kingdra on the lead, which is still one of the best Pokemon in the Color Cup, and Charjabug on the save swap to potentially draw out Mud Boys, and then Morpeko in the back. I am always going to have to save at least one shield for the Morpeko, that way it has a chance against whatever Pokemon it is going to be up against in the end game. And usually with a shield or two up, Morpeko can sweep. Now, Shadow Kingdra at first was very difficult to obtain for a lot of you guys, I would assume, and maybe you guys didn't have it, but right now there is a Team Rocket Go event happening, and Horsey is in the rotation for Shadow Pokemon. So if you can get one and TM frustration off of it before the event ends, then you can build yourself a Shadow Kingdra and try it out in the Color Cup. It is currently one of the best generalists to use in this meta. Not a lot of Pokemon are going to counter it except for Ferrothorn, which we are going to see in the match that's going on the screen right now, and of course Azu, but no one is running Azu in the Color Cup. So try to get one if you can. It is worth it, and it's worth it to have one for later limited metas. So with this team, it's very simple to run. If you lose lead to a Ferrothorn or even a Toxapex, just swap immediately into that Charjabug. Charjabug is going to resist everything from Ferrothorn, and it is going to hit for neutral with the X-Scissors, which are going to hurt any of the grass types that are in the current meta. So that's why I really enjoyed using it as a safe swap. If you draw out a, let's say, a Quagsire or a Gastrodon, then you just go for that X-Scissor, which is going to be neutral. And if your opponent gets a little bit greedy, you might be able to take shields from them with that Charjabug. We ended up doing really well with the team. I got a 5-0 in the first set that I used it in, so I can highly recommend it. It is a solid team, and I also got 2 positive sets after that. However, I kept using it, and then I started struggling against Abomasnow, so I ended up going to the Master League, and surprisingly, we did really well in the Master League. I ended up building a 98 IV Necrozma, and I can say that we climbed back up to the 2800s, so there will definitely be some Master League content coming your way. But for now, let's focus on this Color Cup team. So in this match, we were up against a Gastrodon on the lead. Now, usually I will soft lose lead to a Gastrodon and then come in with my Charjabug and farm them down, farm down whatever health they have left. But in this case, my opponent didn't shield the Octazooka. I was able to debuff them and survive another body slam, and I was able to take them out with my Kingdra, and then my opponent brought in their own Charjabug. Now I tried to handle their charge bug with mine as much as I could. I got them into the yellow, and then I reached another X-Scissor, but my opponent tried to catch it on their very low HP Gastrodon in the back, so I went ahead and swapped out into Morpeko. I was able to farm them down, and now it is going to be their charge bug against our Morpeko. I went ahead and double shielded, and I get super lucky because my opponent's final Pokemon is a Toxapex. I'm able to land a super effective Aura Wheel on the Toxapex, and I have a move stored on my charge bug, so my opponent goes ahead and top lefts. Moving on to the next battle, we are going up against an Alolan Marowak on the lead, and my opponent swaps into a Credilli. And I think I make the wrong choice here and I bring in my Charjabug, but I mean whatever, we are switch locked into this Credilli now, so I'm just going to go for a super effective X-Scissor, which they let go, and at this point I decide to let my Charjabug go because I do not want to invest any shields. I come in with my Kingdra and I farm the Credilli down, and my opponent is going to bring in a Serperior. Now this is going to get a little bit tricky. I am able to go for an Outrage, which my opponent obviously shields. I was really hoping that they would call in Octazooka and not shield because they had 2 shields left. But of course they went ahead and shielded that. And now I am going to bring in Morpeko. Now my opponent was able to get both of my shields out of the way with Serperior, but then they bring in a Alolan Marowak into a Morpeko that has so much energy. I'm able to get their final shield out of the way with a Psychic Fangs, reach an Aura Wheel which takes them out, and I'm even able to reach another Aura Wheel for the Serperior, take the Serperior out, and we take that win with Morpeko, which absolutely clutched that game, and that is going to be a 5-0 in the first set that we play with this team. Now, did I enjoy those games? Yes, but I'm still not a big fan of the Color Cup. But anyways, moving on to the next battle, we are going to be up against an Alolan Golem on the lead. My opponent swaps out immediately into a Jumpluff. I am going to bring in Charjabug now. Actually, if I see Jumpluff on the lead, I will also swap into Charjabug. I'm going to go for these X-Scissors, which are going to hit for neutral. I'm going to be able to go for a second one here. And let's see what my opponent decides to do. They are running Acrobatics, but I'm going to go ahead and let the next move go. They end up going for an Aerial Ace, probably expecting me to shield, but I didn't want to give up a shield because, you know, I have that Morpeko in the back. But we end up taking a shield from them, and then I swap into my Kingdra, and it looks like my opponent's final Pokemon is going to be that Venusaur. Okay, if I can get their final shield here, which I do with the Outrage, then I can let my Kingdra go and then come in and absolutely destroy my opponent with Morpeko. I'm just going to go for the Aura Wheel. That way I could boost my Morpeko's attack, and this next Aura Wheel, this Dark type Aura Wheel, should definitely take this Alolan Golem out. It does. We're able to land it and one-shot them, and that is going to be another win that we get thanks to Morpeko clutching up. Now this next battle is a little bit messy. My opponent leads Jumpluff, and I end up staying in here a little bit. I should have just swapped immediately into my Charjabug, but we end up taking an Energy Ball on our Kingdra. I am going to go for an Outrage, and hopefully I can get a shield from my opponent. I don't, but I'm able to get the Jumpluff into the red, and then I swap into Charjabug. We actually swap at the same time, and my opponent brings in a Bibarel. Okay, so both of us are going to hit each other for super effective with our fast moves. I'm even able to farm them down with the Volt Switches and come out with a move for the next Pokemon that my opponent brings in. They bring in a Golem, a Alolan Golem again, and they end up using a shield for the X-Scissor. Now this is good. I need them to be shields down. That way Morpeko has a better chance. Now I was watching out for a potential catch, which is why I didn't go ahead and throw any of my energy on Morpeko. We're able to take the Jumpluff out with one more Thundershock, and then my opponent is going to go ahead and top left because at this point I had so much energy on Morpeko that the Golem was probably not going to be able to handle it. Now in the next match, we are in a Kingdra mirror match on the lead, which I do not like because for some reason my Kingdra always loses. My opponent always ends up surviving with like 1 HP and then reaching an Octazooka for my next Pokemon. So that's not really great for me, but I am going to go ahead and bring in Charge-a-Bug. I take the Octazooka on Charge-a-Bug, and because we got that debuff, I end up swapping out into Morpeko. Now, my opponent definitely could have stayed in with Jumpluff because Jumpluff absolutely wrecks Morpeko, but they swap out into Toxapex. We're able to take them out. They do not invest any shields. They are saving both of their shields for their Jumpluff, and I might have a chance here as long as my opponent is not running Acrobatics. I am going to go for an X-Scissor here, finally get a shield out of the way, and I just need to get their second shield out of the way and then land another X-Scissor. It looks like we might be able to do this and take this win. I know that this next move is an aerial ace and it's not enough to take us out, so I let it go. And at this point, I'm at back-to-back X-Scissors, so my opponent is going to let the next move go. We're able to take that Jumpluff out, and we take that win. Now, so far up until now, we haven't gotten any losses, but in this next match, we aren't going to be as lucky. We get a really nice lead of Alolan Marowak, and then my opponent swaps into Jumpluff, so I am going to bring in my Charge-a-Bug. I went ahead and shielded the first move just in case it was the Acrobatics, but it wasn't. It looks like my opponent is running Aerial Ace and Energy Ball. But I am going to be able to take the next Aerial Ace, go for another X-Scissor here, and I think I should be able to take one more Aerial Ace, but I think this might have been CMP because my opponent was definitely at another move there. And when they bring in that Alolan Marowak, I swap out immediately into my Kingdra because I am a shield down, and Marowak with energy can be very scary for the Morpeko that I have in the back. But we are really unfortunate here because my opponent is running a Morpeko of their own, and I am going to let this next move go, which is the Aura Wheel, and it really hurts our Morpeko. I needed just a little bit more health on my Morpeko to be able to handle their Alolan Marowak that they have in the back. I am going to be able to reach, well, I'm not even able to get the Psychic Fangs off actually because I just kept farming. And my opponent is going to be able to take our Charge-a-Bug out and take that win with their Alolan Marowak. So unfortunately for us, we are going to take that loss. Now this next match is, I would say, a complete mess. I do not like how I played this at all. If I had just played this a little bit better, I might have had a chance to win this. But my opponent leads Talonflame, and then they swap out into a Credilli, and I still don't have a good idea of what I should do against Credilli save swap, because if I bring in Charge-a-Bug, Charge-a-Bug is going to have to take super effective from the Rock Slides. So I end up staying in a little bit with my Kingdra against their Credilli, and we take a move from them on Kingdra. I'm able to take a shield from them, however, and then I come in with my Charge-a-Bug. And my opponent actually swaps out and saves that Credilli in the back. And now I am going to have to bring in Morpeko here, and you'll see why them saving Credilli in the back is not good for me. It's because they are going to be able to bring it in here, survive one more Thundershock, and get to a move and take our final shield. And my opponent's final Pokemon is a Lileep, and I believe this is an Excel Lileep, so we are definitely not going to be able to win this game. My opponent is going to finally give up their final shield here, but they are going to be able to make it to a Grass Knot, take our Morpeko out, and my opponent is going to take that win. There were so many places there where I could have played that a little bit better. Like, I definitely could have gone for a move against their Credilli to take them out before they saved it in the back. And then I also could have not let them catch an X-Scissor on Talonflame, but oh well, we are going to take a loss there, but that's still a positive set. Anyways, in this next match, we were up against a Toxapex on the lead. I swapped out immediately into my Charge-a-Bug, and my opponent brought in a Decidueye. Okay, this is fine. I am going to be able to hit for neutral with the X-Scissors, and my opponent actually lets 2 X-Scissors go. We're able to take the Decidueye out, and now I should be able to align my Morpeko to their Toxapex. I'm even able to reach a Discharge and get the Toxapex into the yellow. Okay, now I bring in the Morpeko, and of course I'm going to go ahead and shield whatever my opponent is going to throw. It ends up being the Brine. We reach that Aura Wheel. Let's see what my opponent decides to do. They shield. Okay, so because they shielded, I am, or I would have gone ahead and invested both of my shields into Morpeko, but then my opponent swaps out into Talonflame. I just need to get this Talonflame low enough to where I can come in with Morpeko and farm them down. I'm able to take their final shield with an Octazooka. They go for a Brave Bird here to get rid of our Kingdra, but I am going to be able to come in with Morpeko, reach an Aura Wheel for the Toxapex, take the Toxapex out, and that is going to be another win for us. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to be up against a Toxapex on the lead. Against this lead again, I am immediately going to swap into my Charge Bug, and I'm going to start going for these discharges. Actually, it's really good that my opponent stayed in a little bit, and that way I could get them weak. And then my opponent swapped into a Talonflame, which is really going to hurt us with the Incinerates, but at least I'm able to get a shield from them with the discharge. Okay, but now this Talonflame is super loaded, and I went ahead and let the Brave Bird go on the Kingdra because they were going to be able to get 2 moves off anyways. So I let the Brave Bird go, and then I swapped into Morpeko because I wanted to farm them down and get energy. And it looks like my opponent's final Pokemon is going to be a Decidueye. I am able to land an Aura Wheel, a Dark-type Aura Wheel on the Decidueye. I don't know why they shielded the first move from Morpeko because that definitely wasn't going to hurt as much as the second move. But we get the Decidueye out of the way. I'm able to go for an Aura Wheel against the Toxapex, get that out of the way, and then I'm able to farm the Talonflame down and take that win. Moving on to the next battle, this is where Abomasnow started making me absolutely hate my life. We are up against a Shadow Abomasnow on the lead, and I swapped immediately into my Charge-a-Bug. My opponent stayed in and went for a Weather Ball to weaken our Charge-a-Bug, and then they swapped into their Gastrodon. At least I was able to get the Gastrodon into the red, but now I am going to have to take an Earth Power from this Gastrodon onto my Kingdra. And if my opponent has a Quagsire in the back, that's really not good for me. But I swap immediately into my Morpeko because I think they would have been able to farm our Kingdra down with the Abomasnow. And Abomasnow with energy is definitely not going to be good for Morpeko. But when I swap into Morpeko, they stay in with Abomasnow. So this is telling me that their third Pokemon is probably really weak to Morpeko. Anyways, I am not able to get rid of the Abomasnow with the Morpeko, but at least I'm able to catch one of the moves on Kingdra. I am going to go for an Aura Wheel here now and get the Abomasnow out of the way, finally. But my opponent's final Pokemon is a Toxapex, and my Morpeko is not going to have enough health to do anything against the Toxapex, so we are going to take a loss there. In the next battle, we were up against a Toxapex on the lead, so I swapped out immediately into my Charge-a-Bug, and my opponent brought out a Talonflame. Okay, I was able to bait them with the Exeter and take a shield from them, so I went ahead and invested one of my own shields. That way I could reach the discharge and either get the Talonflame out of the way or get another shield from them. My opponent actually ends up letting Talonflame go. They bring in Decidueye, and I'm even able to reach another move for the Decidueye and weaken them. And then I bring in Kingdra. I let the Spirit Shackle go. I did call that it was a Spirit Shackle, and then my opponent is able to unfortunately farm us down with the Toxapex, but not before taking an Outrage from our Kingdra. So the Toxapex is pretty low, and I am going to let the Brine go because Brine is going to hurt less than Frenzy Plant if my opponent is able to reach Frenzy Plant on Decidueye. But they're not going to be able to reach anything because we go for an Aura Wheel, take the Decidueye out, and we were going to be able to reach another move for the Toxapex. So my opponent goes ahead and top lefts. Guys, we have reached the final battle of the video. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. But I am going to leave you guys here with this one last battle. It is going to be a loss, unfortunately. I swapped into Charge-a-Bug to try to draw out any Mudboys that my opponent might have. But they stay in with Jumpluff, and they end up having a Quagsire in the back. And the Quagsire just absolutely ends up wrecking my Morpeko. So it is going to be a loss, but it's still a 3-2. So another positive set with this really fun team. I would highly recommend this team if you guys want to try it. But anyways, that is going to bring us to the end of our video. If you guys like my content, please consider subscribing, maybe leave a like, it helps me out so much. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye bye!